Welcome back to another weekly episode of Tesla to Mars. Let's kick it off with one of the best videos I've seen in the last couple of months. This is a video and a song made by CERN Basher's lovely wife. She's called Alessandra Basher, so be sure to follow her. And now let's enjoy this video. Yeah, I need to put it on the screen first.
For Twitter's reign, he saved free speech for all, eliminating woke pain. SpaceX flies, Tesla self-drive, Starlink beams with laser dreams. He's got a master plan for our lives. Let's occupy Mars. Let's occupy Mars. And making kids to keep mankind alive. Neuralink is on the way. Boring tunnels save the day. Oh, thank you, Elon Musk. Fighting fights for freedom's sake. Politics, he's not afraid. He won't just sit and watch. SpaceX flies, Tesla self-drive, Starlink beams with laser dreams. He's got a master plan for our lives. One more kid, one more brand, launching rockets with just one hand. Optimus, CyberCab 2, what can't this man do? It's taxes, fraud, some solid memes. Corruption won't stay. And Doge saving USA. So here's to you, tech tycoon, saving Earth and Mars real soon. We thank you, Elon Musk. One more kid, one more brand, launching rockets with just one hand. Optimus, CyberCab 2, what can this man do? Oh, thank you, Elon Musk.
Wonderful, right?
I see tears in your eyes, Case.
Yeah, I'm crying.
I see tears in your eyes, Case. Do you need you need a moment for yourself while we continue the podcast, or?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Did you see the shirt that she was wearing? The Doge father.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, we need more of this in the world, if you ask me.
I think Case has a crush on the wife of CERN, doesn't he?
No. Yeah, and the wife of CERN maybe has a crush on Elon then, so this full circle.
Let's not try to get in a fight with CERN here, guys.
No, not at all.
Maybe it's more wise when we use our time data crushing with CERN next week.
Yeah, April 8th. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Really looking forward to that one. So, how's your week, Jens?
Yeah, pretty good.
More optimistic about humanity or less optimistic about humanity, Case? Let's kick off with you.
Oof, tough question. Faith in humanity is still going down, but I see some glimmers of hope.
Yeah, well, I always find it very interesting about what is signal versus what is noise in modern day world. And Elon last week held an excellent all hands meeting for his staff, but they published it live, so it was basically all hands. So also shareholders and just people with interest could dial in. And he also shared that with employees of Tesla. Like, if you put on your television or maybe open up your X feed, you think it's all, Tesla's on fire, etc., etc. But in reality, just many good things happening also around Tesla and its brand. And it was so that therefore I asked myself the question: okay, what is signal and what is noise? And obviously, just a lot is noise in this world, and very little is signal. And I think it's a very optimistic time for Tesla and its brand. Right now, the Juniper, the Model Y, which was the best-selling car in the world, where Elon iterated that it will be the best-selling car in the world for the third year in a row. So coming year, also the expectations will be Model Y will be the best-selling car. And if you look at reality at this moment, we had this whole revamp of the best-selling car of Tesla, so the Model Y, new edition, let's call it like that. And to make that happen, it's actually a super complicated process, because you need to overhaul basically your whole production facility for your factory. So Fremont, Brandenburg, Berlin, and Shanghai are all revamped and equipped with the latest equipment. And my expectations will be the car is significant better, so on specs, but also on luxurious feel. And maybe Kees, you can chime in on this a little bit more, because you have sit inside the latest Model Y already.
Yeah, it's a major step up.
Yeah. Please elaborate on that a little bit later. But from what I've been researching over the last couple of days and weeks, is that both the manufacturing cost will be lower, so there's more room for price elasticity with this car. But also just the specs, and the car just looks better and is objectively much better than the previous Model Y versions. And I think the market is reacting on that, as you point out here in your post, Case, that the Model Y inventory is now completely sold out. I think they're still production constrained because they're ramping up their new facilities. So this could be a sort of kicker for Q2, if you ask me. But maybe, Case, you have seen the Model Y. Can you compare what are the main differences between the latest Model Y and, let's say, a Model Y of a year ago?
There are like no significant changes besides the interior. So if you're looking at the outside, kind of still looks like the old Model Y, but of course it has some new lights, and the back end has a redesign. I think that indirect light bar at the back is going to be very important also for the Robotaxi, because that indirect light bar can project all colors. And I think that's also laid out in some regulations, that an autonomous vehicle needs to communicate with other autonomous vehicles or the people surrounding it. So they improved that. What I noticed are small interior improvements. So in the back of the vehicle, in the trunk, the first Model Y actually that rolled off the production line didn't have a parcel shelf. Then a year down the line, they came with a parcel shelf, but there was no place for storing it. And now they redesigned the trunk to fold that parcel shelf and stow it away, so that you always have your parcel shelf if you need it. They reintroduced the steering wheel stalk only for the indicators. So that's, I think, very positive for a lot of people. And interior wise, yeah, it roughly had the same update as the Model 3 has gotten, but I think slightly better. And the Model Y also has a frontal camera, which the Model 3 doesn't have, but they are hardware for. Besides that, like from the outside, no real changes that I need to mention. But here you see it as well in the post from Felix Hamer. He's very good in fighting the FUD, and we have seen some, well, to keep it in your terms, Damien, with the noise and the signal. I love it for these people to signal what's actually happening based on facts, and not, for instance, let's say this the dude from Electrek, what's his name again? That French retard, who's constantly
Fred
down
Lambert.
talking Tesla. Yeah, Fred Lambert. I think he desperately needs his daily dose of ketamine again, because he's getting really annoying again on X. But luckily we have Felix, but we also have CERN. And actually in every continent, Tesla sales are doing pretty well. So if we're looking at China, for instance, it has shown the 17th best week since 2022. So instead of looking at vehicle registration, China doesn't want to get that data published, and also with these types of data, they're also not very happy. But we're looking at weekly insured units, and that's all looking pretty good actually. So Tesla China is doing good, and we see Tesla in Europe doing good, and we know for a fact that March is always the biggest month, or like the third month of the quarter is always the biggest month in Tesla deliveries. So the media is always very quick to start complaining in January and February that sales are halved and doomed, and that Tesla demand is losing. But we see Tesla's going up again, so no problems on that front. And even more positive, I think, is this post by Sawyer Merritt that in Texas, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Georgia, Utah, Virginia, well, the list goes on, Tesla Model Y inventory is sold out. Yeah, that's impressive, if you ask me.
Yeah, so the guidance for this year's delivery numbers is 2.2 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, or?
Yeah, around the 2 million mark. So depending on the ramp of the Model Y.
Yeah. So last year, 24, it was more or less 1.8, and management guidance is between 2 million and 2.2. I think it was a little bit higher than 2 million, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious when the ramp of the Model Y will be sort of finalized. But I think we're almost there, that it runs on sort of full capacity. That will be interesting to see in the upcoming earnings call where we are right now. But I think if I look at Tesla and Tesla as a company and Tesla as a stock, there's probably no more exciting times than it is right now, with so much amazing stuff coming up. We're finally going to see full self-driving in Europe. So I'm curious about your latest updates there as well, Kees. But also, yeah, the announcement that Elon made during the all hands call were, from my point of view, very, very positive. Elon looked very calm and optimistic, so that was great to see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So people are always sensitive for that, but I think especially where he talked about, he announced he was very positive about Tesla Energy, Tesla Semi, but I think the biggest kicker is, of course, the Optimus robots that is already in production in Fremont. So that surprised me quite a bit, that production of Optimus was in Fremont.
Yeah, and they're gonna start selling it to employees first, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
they will have a shitty version that might make some mistakes, right? That's he said it quite funny.
Yeah, of course. And in this call, Elon also talked about 3 waves of innovations that are needed to come to a sort of perfect price point and perfect working technology. So he used that for when he talked about Tesla Energy. He was very optimistic about the Tesla Home solutions that they have with Megapack. This is a great thing. Now you see energy storage, where you have solutions for home and also for businesses. And what he iterated is that energy is now in sort of the third wave of that innovation. So what I personally see is wave number one are the prototypes, working versions. They're more or less expensive. In wave number 3, they iron out all the sort of manufacturing kinks. And wave number 3 is about sort of mega scaling, as I would call it. So that's very exciting. That let's say the Tesla wave is the Tesla energy wave is now on 3, and probably the Semi is on wave number 2. So the first manufacturing facility is there. For energy, they're already at number 3 and number 4 facilities. With car, they have already multiple facilities. And so Optimus right now is in wave number 1, where they have the testing facilities, and will be moved to wave number 2 in the coming year already, where they will have manufacturing in Texas as well for Optimus. So that was something very, very exciting. And Elon compared it with legions. So the first will be a legion. A legion is sort of 5,000 Roman soldiers, and this year the first legion will be manufactured in Fremont.
Yeah, and Cacius Maximus is the leader of that legion, right?
Not sure who is going to be the first one, but it makes a lot of sense that the first 5,000 will be used by employees, will be used in Tesla's factories, and then very rapidly it will be scaled to 100,000 plus. And I was comparing, let's say, if you look at the capabilities that Tesla or Elon Musk has when it comes to manufacturing, we know, of course, the cars, but Tesla is also manufacturing Starlink devices on a large scale. And in terms of complexity, the Optimus robot will be sort of in between those when it comes to complexity. And Tesla is now manufacturing already millions of Starlink devices. So scaling up the Optimus robot might be something that will surprise us all. As same counts for the CyberCab, and I really loved it when Elon said, "Okay, we can produce one every 5 seconds." So this is something really crazy.
Yeah,
if they can do that. Yeah, so cars will coming off the line every 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's insanely fast.
And he was even challenging his team, like guys, maybe we can have a casting machine of 50,000 tons, where we can actually have like multiple frames being stamped at the same time. And he really urged his team to push the limits of each technology to go forward. And I think that is something very unique about Elon's leadership, that he never sees like, okay, we're there, guys, we have this stamping machine, we're already very efficient.
No, he keeps on improving.
He keeps on improving, but also keeps on pushing the limits of the capability of each and every technology that they utilize. And right now, it's for listeners that are not familiar with gigacastings, I can highly recommend going to YouTube and type in gigacastings Tesla. They already have like stamping machine and casting machines in the size of apartment building, and those are 8,000 pounds casting machines, or 8,000 tons. Sorry, so that's a ridiculous big number. But those will be 5x probably in the coming years if they will push that technology. And also, what is very important, like everybody knows the mission of Tesla, let's say in the Tesla community, is transitioning to sustainable energy, or accelerating the transition to a sustainable energy. And Tesla is now for the first time sort of coming out with a new mission statement. And maybe Florian, you can elaborate a little bit on the new mission statement of Tesla, because it's one of the things you also been talking about for years already.
Yeah, well, thank you, Damien. I first want to touch upon Kekius Maximus case. Can you bring him on? He was he was in the Oval Office as well, wasn't he? You saw Elon Musk sitting in this room with a little Doge plate, but also Kekius Maximus behind his desk.
Yeah.
And I was already thinking, why does he have Kekius Maximus as a painting on his wall? This is the only painting he had. So
here I got it.
I'm curious why you said, hey, that's going to be the leader of the legends.
Yeah, this one, Kekius Maximus. Yeah, but the reason why I said it is because Elon, he thinks about the Roman Empire every day, and he makes a lot of parallels with the Roman Empire. So, like at first I never understood why he said Kekius Maximus, but then now Damien mentioning legions, yeah, that's for me it's a 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah, well, I'm so curious why you made that connection, because I didn't make a connection yet. I was already aware of the legend, and I was already aware of this picture, and suddenly when you said it, I was like, hey.
Now we're getting there. Just connecting the dots.
But who is Kekius Maximus? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Let's ask Grok if Grok knows.
Yeah. If you look it up, Kees, I will put in the meanwhile. I will put up this.
Sorry.
Yeah, if Kees will look it up, I will put up that mission in the meanwhile.
Yeah, I know. The mission, the new mission is to actually get to sustainable abundance.
Yes. So. How would sustainable abundance look like, Florian?
Well, I think he also explained that we are all waiting for Master Plan 4. And 2 weeks ago, we thought maybe Master Plan 4 has something to do with Doge. He now explained actually Master Plan 3 plus sustainable abundance is Master Plan 4.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually created one simple picture. He said it's the same mission and the same picture that Tesla was always looking at, the Tesla ecosystem. The only thing that we added is AI and robots. So there we have the convergence of all the technologies that also Ark is talking about. And
the way I would explain it is in an even more simplified manner. So we have, if we look at what would sustainable abundance actually mean, abundance means like access to, everything you can wish for, right? So whatever product or service you want in the future, you can have it. That is the way Elon explained it.
Yep.
But if you have a breakdown of your current cost of living, then most of your money that you spend will go to transport, housing, food, and labor, basically. So if we look at Tesla's picture, we here see vehicles, but we see it combined with self-driving service and insurance, and that also leads to Robotaxi, for example. So if the Robotaxis are becoming a reality, then the cost of transport will be lowered by a 5 or a 10-fold, especially when it's on scale, right? So basically, you're transporting your daily life would cost just a fraction of what you're paying right now. Then here on the left, you see energy, batteries, and everything involved with energy. So I'm very surprised and excited that it actually posted also lithium refining here. So that means they're successful in that area as well. So if the cost of energy by solar and storage will also then become a fivefold or a tenfold cheaper, then obviously those costs are also sort of gone for your housing, right? So that will be a thing. And then the third big driver here is actually labor or getting things done. So if you have an Optimus assistant walking around for maybe basic tasks, but maybe more advanced tasks, everything you want to do, so mow your garden or create a product or services that you want to sell, the Optimus robot comes into play. So we have three core pillars: transport, energy, and labor, all driven by AI. And battery cells that will lead to that abundant future. And so then you have your cost of housing, but your cost of housing can also drop drastically, because this is only the picture of Tesla. But Starlink will be a big factor of housing in the future, because basically you can live wherever you want with an internet connection, and be part of the sort of global economy. You don't have to live in a city anymore to be part of a global economy. You can basically work from everywhere, powered by Starlink. So if you all add these things up, so the transport, the energy, and labor or robotics, then the cost of goods and services will also decrease dramatically. So right now, if you go, for example, to your local butcher, there are 4 humans working in that local butcher, and the price of the meat is actually very much driven by the cost of that labor. And if you look at the type of labor that is being done in, let's say, a local butcher or a transport company, a lot of that kind of work can be done by Optimus, just picking up your meat and making it ready, packaging it, and making sure you can pay for it.
Optimus picking up your meat. That sounds dirty.
Yeah. But then you can imagine, like, maybe if you buy a burger in your local butcher store, and it costs $5, maybe half of it is energy and is labor, or even more, probably 70% of the cost price of that. So there you can imagine that the cost of goods and services will be drastically lowered over time if energy storage and Optimus robots will be at scale. So that is the way how I translate that sustainable, abundant future. And I think the sustainable part is that it will coexist with nature. I think that is a very exciting thing to realize, that we're not abusing nature anymore, but that we can coexist with nature. Because there's just plenty of lithium.
Doge in that?
Sorry?
What do you think is the role of Doge in all of this?
The role of Doge will be, it's not directly related to this thing, because this is just the technology push that is going to happen. This will lead to an increase in GDP for the United States. So if the first, let's say, million Optimus robots will be deployed in the United States, then the United States suddenly has 1 million extra workers, right? And right now we don't have FSD, and we don't have a Cybertruck in Europe, for example. So if Tesla deploys the first 10 million Optimus robots in the United States, then suddenly the United States has 10 million extra laborers that can work 24/7 basically at their hand. So where I think Doge comes into play is that because this is just the Tesla economy, but if you talk about the whole Musk economy, and you have Starlink, you have the Boring Company, you have Neuralink, but also full self-driving and robotaxis, the rollout of robotaxis will be going much faster in a continent like the US, where the regulation is not so tight, right? At this moment, full self-driving is already 3-4 years active in the US, but we still don't see it in Europe, which is becoming quite ridiculous at this point. So can you imagine where we have a world where we as Europe are 3, 4, 5 years behind on Optimus robots working in our factories or in our daily lives? That's going to become a huge hurdle. So it can be that the Optimus is doing direct work, but it also can be that the Optimus is doing the work, so the humans are being freed up to deliver more, let's say, high leverage, high income type of goods and services. So that will be that. I think there Doge comes into play, because faster approval ratings for all these kind of technology are of course massive. So if you look at this very simple thing like solar or lithium refining, to just highlighting two things on this sustainable abundance picture. Right now, building a lithium refining complex takes, on average, if you have all the states in the US, takes 8 years. I don't even want to know how much time it will cost in Netherlands or in Europe to get approval for lithium refining, probably more than that. So if you can get it down to, let's say, a half year or a year, and for a lot of solar, you need approvals by your or local government or national government to make it happen. So if you want to build a giant solar farm, that will be very much restricted by regulations that you then encounter. But if you now suddenly have a government that is encouraging investments and encouraging working together with these kind of companies to create this sustainable abundance, then things can accelerate, of course, for the better. And it gives me a tremendous amount of optimism, to come back to the first question, that we now have sort of Elon Musk working next to the basically president of the United States to make this happen. So those will be sort of Doge doesn't fit into this picture, but Doge is definitely accelerator for this whole vision.
Got it.
And Doge is also just the beginning of some new way of actually governing this world of abundance.
Exactly.
So, this world of abundance, there will change a lot. I mean, if everything is going to be as cheap as Elon envisions, and we are living in a world of abundance, what is that going to do to money, for example? And what is that going to do to power? And if we're going to live among robots, like millions and even billions of robots, and we're able to go to Mars up and down, how are we going to actually have a government in place? And what kind of government do we have in place? So I think it's actually pretty interesting question, Case, but maybe we should do a deep dive into that as well.
Yeah, because I'm thinking similar to what you're thinking. They're now stripping the government of unnecessary waste, abuse, and fraud, and they're trimming everything down to get ready for that sustainable abundance, where the role of government, that role has changed throughout history, and there's been a lot of revolutions and wars because of it. So it's time for something new, and I think they're laying the groundwork for it. That's also one of the reasons why the Matrix is fighting back so hard. But sure, let's do a deep dive later, because it's a very interesting topic.
I think I don't know if you know this place in Honduras, Prospera.
No?
It's actually a kind of a city or a state within a country which has all these advantages in order to build something for the future. I think Trump has been talking about this as well. It's also something that Elon has been dreaming of. And I think we will see more of these kind of things. And I don't know. I think we're still in the very early innings to say what's going to happen. But
Prospera looks
Yeah,
like a
well-
nice place.
Well, what I found very interesting, on Aruba at this moment, and I've been talking to a couple of real estate agents over here, and basically most of the people on Aruba are working for the government, so it's basically one giant bureaucracy on this island. And he highlighted very simple examples of how ridiculous it sometimes becomes. So he needed to work on approval, and the real estate agent said it can only be done on Friday. Why? Because on Friday the employee that can put the form into the bucket is there, and he's only there on Friday, and everybody just sort of accept those kind of things here, because it has been this way for maybe 40 or 50 years. But then he said, yeah, we really need something like Doge here. So it for me, there was a sort of great thing to experience that even on the other side of the world, and it's obviously closer to the US than we're here in Europe, but Doge is really living amongst the people. And that is probably the more success. Right now we're in the phase of sort of taking all the pain, right? And some people are excited about it, but obviously people are being hit by sort of the short-term cuts that are being made. But right, if we start seeing the results of those, then the real exciting times are
Damien,
coming in.
This is why they're getting mad. I said to Elon, people are mad at you because you're moving their cheese. And he goes, it's not their cheese, it's the Americans' people cheese. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. It's going to hurt. But I think on the longer term, these economic measures are going to help out the USA as a country, but most of all, the working class and its people that make this country.
So here the guy is actually talking. So Besant is talking with Chamath, and I think the other one is also All In Podcast guy.
yes,
I can
Friedberg.
highly yes, Friedberg. So I can we discussed it yesterday, Florian, but I can highly recommend people to listen to their podcast. I know for sure that Chamath was a Democrat until like a year ago, and during those podcasts he explains like why he's changing, and you can basically be very close to somebody who's always been a Democrat and supports it, to somebody who then at a later stage supports Trump. And I think he's very explicit and can very well explain why he transitioned to being, let's say, in favor of Trump.
Yeah, so well worth to listen to the whole podcast, and for a good small excerpt, you can go to Chief Nerd.
Yeah, so the whole thing is very interesting from my point of view, because if you look at the current US government and the people that are supporting that, let's say new media, so the Joe Rogans of this world, many of them were actually Democrats in the past, and also Donald Trump in his early days was more leaning towards the Democratic Party than the Republican Party at his early days. So maybe when he was 40, 50, etc. But right now we have Kennedy Jr. It's actually a Kennedy, so more Democrat you cannot get him. You have Tulsi Gabbard. She was also former Democrat. So
she even ran for president, for Democrat president in 2020, I guess.
Yeah, and also they've kicked out the very hardcore sort of warmonger Republicans out of the party, which is the neocons, right? So the
Dick
neocons
Cheney?
right now, those kind of people now move toward the Democrat Party. But for me, it's the first time sort of that whole paradigm of are we Democrats, are we Republicans, is a sort of irrelevant. Everybody just works together on pushing the country forward and helping on that mission to get United States healthy again. And there was also sort of people that are working in the White House right now are very exciting. So the guys from the All In podcast, they went to the White House and they said, wow, it's incredible. You come inside and everybody is working on the mission. Elon is sitting in the smallest office of the whole building. He just has a giant screen and a computer in front of him and just working like hell to get things done. Everything is very much mission oriented. So the whole sort of vibe that is right now in that White House is that sort of top entrepreneurs and top brilliant minds are working as it is a startup. Just everybody just claims a desk and starts working, and there's literally no politics there. So meetings are being held publicly, so they share everything on X. So it's so refreshing to see that, and then it makes it so painful to see how slow and sort of bureaucratic we are in Europe. And I hope we can get some sort of form of this in Europe, but I'm not very optimistic about that happening in the coming years. So.
Yeah, and I think those is just the beginning, and what we're seeing right now is just the start of, I mean, finally technology entering the government. But I think technology will improve so fast, as we're seeing with AI right now, that AI is actually going to rule the government as well. And I think these people behind GDA fans and Elon Musk, in the name of Peter Thiel, they've been quite clear about how they envision this kind of world, and it's quite scary though. But it's in line with how Elon Musk thinks about having a city on Mars and how it should be governed. And also, if you know Elon Musk, everything he does right now on Earth is also every company he's starting it's like
it's a trial for
how he wants to do it on Mars. And I think we will see these kind of experiments more and more, either in the government, either somewhere in the US. But I just sent you a tweet case.
I want to put it on the screen.
Talking about this idea of actually building a city in Greenland.
So I'll put it up on the screen because I found it very interesting.
Exciting.
And I thought the correct word you were looking for is it's a sandbox. So Elon is treating everything as a sandbox, and the same happened with FSD in Europe. They're using Norway and the Netherlands as a sandbox to play and gather data. And with those learnings, they're gonna start on Mars. So I'll put it on the screen right now. It's a post on X from Dryden. Never heard of the guy, but
it's a bit of a sidestep. But this whole Greenland thing is also very very interesting. In terms of size, it's almost 4 or 5 times the size of France. So it's a humongous area, and apparently they're living like less than 100,000 people on that island. Let me fact check myself here. Number of citizens.
Yeah, and even though it looks big on the map, the Mercator projection not necessarily is the correct one. But Florian, if you look this up in the background to Damien, Florian, if you can run us through this X post.
Yeah, so this guy is from Praxis Nation, and he's actually, I'm not sure who he is, but it's also being talked about in a book of Balai Srinivasan. He's a former Andreessen Horowitz general partner. He also chief technology officer of Coinbase, and he published this book, The Network State: How to Start a New Country. And in that book, he also talks about these tech communities actually being bigger than a current country, so being big enough to actually set up their own state. So I think this guy is actually following that principle of trying to build a city in Greenland where he can build his own state with his own community. And he has built a community of people around him who have a net worth of more than 400 billion. So
Goes a long way.
that's the start. And the moment that Trump actually said, okay, I'm gonna put my eyes on Greenland, he actually booked a flight to Greenland, and he actually talks about this, how he's actually planning to build the city here in Greenland, and that's what this thread is all about.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Greenland only has
Great thread.
Greenland only has 50,000 citizens, and the size of Greenland is 2 million square kilometers, which is roughly one fifth of the United States. So it's actually a giant country. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure which percentage is actually livable. But as it turns out, Greenland is also the country with the highest percentages of alcoholism in the world. So it's basically 50,000 drunks that that are living on a giant plot of land. And now Denmark is all upset about that they want to take it, but they never actually developed anything on Greenland on the last 50 years.
It's just lefties losing it, Damien.
Not sure, but it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of interesting things can happen there. If you would compare it, for example, to Canada, you can easily build a city like Vancouver or something like that on that land. Kenny, what were your highlights of this week?
I think the Q1 presentation last week was great. Actually, the most exciting part, which you touched on a little bit, but not too much, is on the CyberCab. So I think this is going to be the year of the CyberCab. Optimus is good. Seems to be still according to plan, so that's all good. But I'm most excited about FSD and how that develops. So seeing Case with some good updates and positive updates, which he might can elaborate upon. I think it's still planned in the US, and this is going to be the year of FSD. Optimus would be a cherry on the top, but I think that's going to be more for next year and the years thereafter. So really keen to see the FSD part, which is good. And also, I think Elon mentioned during the call, like more than normal, like he doesn't go into things other than Tesla normally when he has those kind of things. But now he actually went there, so he was like, "Yeah, we're getting a lot of flashback, at stores, etc." So that was good. And he said also, like literally, like hang on to your stock, because he knows how volatile it is and what now is happening in the market. But I think that just reassures, like he knows best what is coming, and he's pretty confident about it. So I think that's good.
Yeah. He also reiterated he also reiterated the case of Katie Wood with Archivest.
Yeah, I know, but yes, but there are so many ifs there and quite far away. But yeah, I think in a couple of years, like end of the decade, we could be there. But still, a lot needs to happen.
How would you evaluate what he said about 5,000 Optimus robots being working around the factory Tesla? How would you interpret that as a financial future for Tesla?
Well, it depends on how much useful work they can do and what they expect in useful work. So like once you can actually look at, all right, how much of the workforce is now doing this, let's say, simple or maybe dangerous labor, you can actually really easily replace. So we need to get a sense of that, and hopefully we get that by the end of the year. I think the biggest upside for Tesla is really that they can build it on scale. So I don't see any other company doing it at scale. There are some good good robotics companies, like Aptronic is a good one. Figure AI, I think, showed another video this week where their robot is really walking like a human being,
No
which is
more
actually
bite and
really
walk.
good. No more bite and walk, indeed. But so I think like upside of Tesla, obviously the workforce is still first, but I think commercially it's that's the biggest addressable market, you know. So
Yeah, but let's do this thought exercise. So let's say the first 10,000 Optimus robots, so two Roman legions, are not being sold, right? Because they will be working around the factories, and probably somewhere in 2006, the first will be sold to employees. So how would you then are those 10,000 robots then being factored in R&D? Is that would you see that
I think
R&D? How would you do
I
that?
think that's really looking at the pennies here, Damian. So it depends on like how much does it cost, etc. But these things are really to build the use case, you know. So they're testing like how do we produce high volume, capability wise. I think there's still a lot to be done. You have to see it like let's say the first iPhone that came on the market, like it had a new screen, etc. But the whole app environment still had to be developed, which I think is the same here with Optimus. So I think that's going to be a little bit far-fetched, but if you look at Tesla, like it's around like 800 billion, 1 trillion company, you know, market value. So to move the needle, it needs to be high volume, and I think also commercial, or replace like 30-40% of the workforce.
Yeah, where I'm excited about as well is like Elon is pushing for a humanoid, right, with Tesla. So the highest possible utilization of a robot that you can have, like a multi-purpose robot. But in our visit to Berlin, they also had a booth serving coffee to us. So there was a machine where you can type in your coffee, and then the machine was grinding, etc. And it was basically a sort of KUKAS, I think the robot manufacturer arm, together with some light Optimus-ish solutions. So, for example, the hand that can just grab the coffee. There was just it was not a complete hand, but just a cup holder, basically, that can that gave us then the coffee. So the knowledge and capabilities that it developed during Optimus will be used for all sorts of robotics within the company of Tesla. So I'm also curious. Let's say if Tesla can come to the market and say you have a barista and a coffee, you have a coffee maker and a coffee machine that is basically working on automation. That those kind of things will also become very exciting if you think about the whole infrastructure that Tesla has already been building. Other question to you, Kenny, like so let's say the first 10,000 Optimus robots are being built, but are not coming on the market yet. How that is then a very difficult situation for analysts to cope with, because it's not showing up in the numbers, but we see them working. What needs to be true for you to get analysts excited about the Optimus robot? Does the share price moving?
I think analysts will always be late. So the best investors normally look forward, like where's the puck going, instead of where's the puck now and how fast is it going. But that's how normal analysts work, Daniel. So they first want to see use cases, like what are the use cases and the unit economics. They want to have guidance from management, like are you selling the products? Are you asking for a service fee? Are you getting subscriptions, selling software, etc.? Like there's so many questions that it's hard to like grab a number, you know, and say, all right, it will result in higher earnings per share of X, because then they can work with it. So the advantage for us is that we know about those details, we know it's coming, and we can make some scenario analysis, like what if they do a subscription, what happens if they sell it, and then base our price on that. But normally for an analyst to really put it in their numbers, it will be around knowing what the unit economics are and also production numbers. So I think for now, for example, I can actually look it up. So Tesla is expected to grow earnings per share in 2025 with only 15%, which has gone down in the last couple of months and weeks. And then in 2026, again with 37%, which is mostly driven, I think, by new cars. So also on the FSD part, there's not a lot of certainty. It's not clear how that's exactly going to look like. It's a little bit priced in the stock, obviously, because it's pretty high. But it's not all in the earnings per share. So the analysts don't already count for it. So if you follow the analyst and also the valuation, they will say it's overvalued because you're paying, I don't know, 100 times earnings right now, which is way too high normally. But obviously, it's also baked in that FSD is coming and Optimus might be around. But once those numbers are getting into those models, it will get nuts, like you had in like 2020, 2021, when people thought, all right, Tesla's going to go bankrupt, and then they had the best EV in the world with the highest margins, and they just extrapolated that, which was also wrong, but that's how it normally happens.
Hey, and Kenny, with those the FSD subscriptions, is that also seen as deferred revenue, or is that already taken into the revenue?
I don't think they take it into revenue quite a bit now, because also the unit economics are there not shared. So they did in the past, like they shared the take rate, etc. Now it isn't. So they know a little bit about the earnings and the subscription or the selling of the software, the FSD software. Maybe they've accounted for some software launches, like in Europe, etc., because also Elon mentioned it. But like if they have Europe in there, it's like 10% take rate for Europe, which still amounts to nothing, So
more because in FSD they're about to launch the subscription as well. So yeah, in a
but
market like
it's
China,
more or less the same. It's more or less the same, and I think China now launched, so yes, they will include that as well. But they've also included the downgrade because of Tesla Model Y ramp up taking a bit longer, I think, than everyone expected. And also decreasing volumes, So
And what's your thought about like the stock movement of the last couple of days? Because since 5 days it's going up again, and where 5 days ago we saw this the running Kamala's former running mate Tim Walz. He was on stage making jokes about Elon, and that he looks at the stock price and that's 225 and going down. But we've seen quite a rise. I think I know what's a good driver in that one, but
There's some breaking news coming in, and that is that there are multiple bombs found in Tesla car dealership in Texas.
Yeah.
So it looks like that sort of the attacks against Tesla and Elon are also heating up. But what we also talked about in our previous podcast and predicted a little bit is that it's actually very anti-human to destroy property of somebody else. Let's say 90% of people really, really dislike that kind of behavior. So what you're actually seeing right now is that those attacks are sort of backfiring against Tesla and the brand. So I read over the last week that more than 10 billion in shares were being bought by retail investors. Yeah, a little bit plus than 8 billion. And also many people are now announcing that they're going to buy multiple Teslas. So one guy said I already have 2, but they're going to buy another 2 for my friends and family.
And the funny thing with that, Damon, is as well because the former like Democrats used to buy these cars.
Yes.
And the Republicans not so much. So like the market penetration of EVs in general, or Teslas, in the Republican part of the country, is very low. And now we're seeing a counter movement of many Republicans now buying Teslas again as well. So that might help.
Yeah. So, but obviously this is not important, but it's very sort of what surprises me is that that it's not being said as like, listen, this is not acceptable. You don't hear any Democrat saying this at this point. Say
No.
like, listen, destroying other people's property, destroying Teslas, or destroying whatever you do is just not acceptable. And therefore, I'm also happy that they there's right now a fight how to label it. Like they want to label it as vandalism, while it's a clear act of terrorism that is going on. It's just not people vandalizing things. It's actually acts of terror, and these bombs that are being placed are actually highlighting the terrorism part of it. So how on earth can you call it vandalism where you're actually shooting on stores and you're throwing Molotov cocktails inside and placing bombs? That's just so ridiculous. And
Even the mouse cursor on the website was a Molotov cocktail. It's like everything screams, we incite violence.
Yeah, and I think it's very good to, whatever your position is on any given subject, violence is just not acceptable. Endpoint. But yeah, my suspicion is that it will heat up for the coming months, let's say 2 or 3 months. But they're working very, very hard to to also try to catch the people that are behind this kind of initiatives. So the people that are inciting it, and people that are encouraging this kind of violence. And nobody talks about it anymore, but it already happened very early stage, where the Cybertruck got blown up next to the Trump Tower, right? So already bombs are being placed, and acts of terrorism are already being deployed on Tesla, Elon, and Donald.
I do think, guys, this is, as Elon said, it feels like an Armageddon, and it's a lot of ways to try to build a lot of attention. But I think we as a podcast shouldn't put too much attention to this kind of terrorism. It is what it is. It will fade away. We're here for building a bigger picture, and
And we're only like
the point
8
is that
weeks after the election, so
it's backlashing. So it's
very
backlashing. So people are standing up against it right now because it's very clear behavior that people don't want, right? So
that's what I'm saying.
Listen, Damien, listen. Listen to the man weave and preach.
yes, Florian, exciting things for you this week.
Multiple things. I also saw this NVIDIA what's it called? It's like an event or product launch, or it was like an amazing event where the CEO was actually showing what products they had, and he was talking about AI factories. And maybe you can bring up that that sentence and that clip I sent to you, Kees.
Definitely.
So he's explaining how computers are actually changing and having a new role in our economy, and he calls them the new AI factories, generating tokens.
Yeah, so NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said AI factories have only one job, generating tokens, and the future of software requires capital investment, shifting from traditional data centers to AI factories. Do we want to take a look at this short clip as well?
Yes, please, because it's very short and
require.
Okay.
The future of software requires capital investment. Now, this is a very big idea. Whereas in the past, we wrote the software and we ran it on computers. In the future, the computer is going to generate the tokens for the software. And so the computer has become a generator of tokens, not a retrieval of files. From retrieval-based computing to generative-based computing, from the old way of doing data centers to a new way of building these infrastructure, and I call them AI factories. They're AI factories because it has one job and one job only, generating these incredible tokens that we then reconstitute into music, into words, into videos, into research, into chemicals or proteins. We reconstitute it into all kinds of information of different types. The future of software.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to show this is that he's actually talking about Tesla as well. So in the Tesla Gigafactory in Texas, there's this giant compute center, which will be their AI factory, and that AI factory is going to actually spit out these self-driving cars. So it's generating the tokens for the self-driving cars, and it's unbelievable how these two guys are actually explaining the future, you know. And we are on the brink of that future. We're going to see it in 60 days. It's actually going to happen. So that's why I wanted to show it.
And with 60 days, you mean Robotaxi CyberCab lines, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Elon also talked about this in his all hands meeting, is that of course, Tesla has been building for 20 years on the hardware, on the software, on building the factories. He also explained that he wasn't in this game to actually build factories, but the only thing he could do is build factories because he wasn't able to actually outsource building factories. There wasn't anybody capable of building what he wanted to build. So he needed to do it himself. So he needed a lot of time and effort to build those factories. So those factories are already in place right now. We also heard Damien say that they're going to actually, their throughput is not going to be 35 seconds, but it's going to be 5 seconds. So 7 times faster. And now with acceleration of AI and those AI factories actually getting into place, and we are going to see this whole new kind of product, not only the robot on wheels, but also the robot on legs. And he is just accumulating all this data, and the data is the new oil of the new world we're going to live in. And he has all this data. This is also something that Cathie Wood has been saying this week. Elon knows what the new oil is, and he's like the techno king. What he also says about himself, he's on this like this pyramid point of all these converging technologies, and it all comes together at what he is doing, and that's so exponential power. And we will see that in the next 5 years. So.
And there's very little people seeing this as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Florian, that over the last 10 years, actually a lot of this infrastructure is being built, and that costs just a lot of time to make that happen. And it reminds me of JB Straubel, currently sitting on the board of Tesla, but one of the first time right hands of Elon. And if you think Elon Musk is a long-term thinker, then think about JB Straubel, because JB Straubel always thinks like 10 years ahead. And he even thinks so much ahead that a couple of years ago, he left Tesla as CTO of the company. He was the CTO at that time to start the company called Redwood Materials, because he said, well, at some point, the amount of batteries that are coming back for recycling will be so high in volume that there need to be a solution built for that. Well, at that point, there wasn't so much lithium recycling going on at the point. So he started to build Redwood Materials to already have that in place. And I think that really tells about the mindset of Tesla and the people being involved. Always Elon gets many credits, rightfully so, with Tesla. But one of the big brains within Tesla and behind Tesla is for sure JB Straubel. and he was talking about battery and supply chain bottlenecks already like 5 or 10 years ago that are now coming into fruition, right? So they see some bottlenecks in battery because JB already knew that they need so large volumes of batteries, and it really attributes to the long-term vision and execution that Tesla is already having for over the last 10 years. And now we start seeing that coming into fruition, which will accelerate the company because all the infrastructure is there. And talking about accelerating, one thing that Elon also came back on during his presentation was his ambition to build airplanes and VTOLs.
Yeah.
And those VTOLs, of course, will be crucial. That AI is also developed at a certain point, and batteries are also developed at a certain point. But he said, well, all the ingredients are already there. So the AI is there, the batteries are there, and all the manufacturing equipment, but it's just too much on his plate still right now that he wants to.
His first answer was so funny, like, well, I have enough to do. But yeah, it would be the cherry on top if he goes to build that VTOL.
Yeah, but he has been talking so long already about it that for me it's clear that pictures and prototypes and all that are already sort of being manufactured or being sort of conceptualized. Maybe it could be France. If you have some time left over this weekend, can you draw this VTOL for me or something in that realm? But he talks about it already for years and years. And at first, it was always the Roadster that was the cherry on the cake. But now they blended the Model S and X a little bit into sort of that Roadster roadmap. And now the cherry on the cake is an airplane or a VTOL.
Yeah, but he's been talking about this for 5 years, so it's quite similar to like the Roadster. It's definitely the cherry on the cherry, probably.
Yeah, but unnecessary.
The cognac on the cherry, So, but I get very excited by it because he said like all the technologies are now in place, so the AI is going to play an important role. Batteries are going to play an important role. SpaceX is already advanced with their supersonic.
He said something about those batteries. What he said, they are the cheapest battery on battery cell level. Yep. And he said there are specialized companies in batteries, and we are better than they are. And it's unbelievable, isn't it?
That has to do with those dry cathodes, right? The dry cathode production method of the 4680 battery.
Yeah, very, very good point, because in Germany there is already a whole square that they're going to use for battery manufacturing, but they're waiting probably to iron out sort of the latest things in Texas. So again, phase 2, phase 1 test facilities, phase 2 scaling up the facilities in Texas. Texas is for things at scale. And then the third phase will be sort of global rollout. So what you see right now is most of the time, phase 1 still happens in California, sometimes in Texas. And then phase 2 is mostly in Texas and in Shanghai. And then phase 3 is sort of global. And I think with the 4680 battery, we now entered phase 2. And we are on the verge to entering phase 3 for the giga scaling that will happen right there.
Okay, so I had something else as well, and maybe another topic as well, but maybe we should give some slack to Kenny because he's been so quiet.
Yeah, and I see him yawning as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Kenny, let's dive into some numbers. Thanks, Florian.
No, you can just continue. I'm a fly on the wall today, so it's all good.
Well, then
what's happening with you, Kenny? That you're fly on the wall? Are you?
Well, next week is going to be delivery numbers, right? So I'm just waiting for my moment again.
Yeah, and April usually is a terrible month when it comes to Tesla stock in general. So I'm looking forward to May, and I think we're gonna see the convergence of many good things happening. So we have FSD. So I did some posts about FSD the last couple of weeks. The voting session will be in May. That's both for the European Commission as well as like a month later for the United Nations. We have FSD China launching a subscription. So I think May is gonna be the pivoting turning point for that's gonna make 2025 into an epic year.
Maybe you
Let's
should
do it.
show another FSD China movie.
I'll put one on the screen from Larry. Larry posted
Yeah,
one.
that one was amazing. Yeah, on the dirt road.
Exactly. Yeah. So there are no lane markings. There's no tarmac. There's construction work, and FSD just
该走了，他还在绕，他觉得这个路只有一辆车才能通行，但是这么绕也不是办法呀。
You see the assertiveness as well, so it's gonna creep forward a little bit.
走，快点！没有识别到，没有错对了。这个路我靠，走，牛逼，他自己走了，我操！下车了吗？他受不了，他说我不行，我得那个忍不了一点，走，大哥，走，等着公交车来了，走，启动，我靠，可以呀，我操！再怎么走？再怎么别我觉得他会跟这个印子走。再怎么走？牛不牛逼？我靠！他会跟这个车印儿走。
Chinese having fun with FSD.
Yeah, right.
What's a little rabbit there doing?
I also
that rabbit brings luck, Florian, and it's very much needed in with FSD in China.
这个太复杂了，这个路段。
But it works perfectly here. And then I also have another one that I'm going to show you here. It's sped up. It's sped up, but you see the amount of pedestrians.
Yeah, FSD is never going to work in Amsterdam.
Right? Yeah, so I tried to make like a meme or a joke out of it, and it got picked up pretty well. But with all these pedestrians, yeah, okay, it's slow, but it still works, you know? It's insane to see how good FSD is actually performing already.
Case, you're actually very good in typing like a lefty blue-haired woman with all those capitals. And where did you learn that?
Well, you know those memes, right? With SpongeBob SquarePants, so it takes me quite some time to type this, longer than I would want to, but it always makes me laugh, and apparently it makes other people laugh as well. So
yeah, very nice. Yeah, well.
Case, I had this other thing I wanted to show just in to show what AI is doing on other fronts as well. So I showed this clip of the AI factory.
Yeah,
I would love to see this tweet which I said about the AI education, what's happening on the education level. So
yeah,
there's this school in Austin, and this school has adopted the schooling of Elon Musk at Boca Chica.
Yeah,
and they actually went commercial, and they've now showed their first test results after being in business for I think a few years. It already shows that the students in this school are already in the top 2% of the country in the results.
Yeah,
So
and they're getting homeschooled by an AI.
AI tutor, yeah. So can you imagine that in the future nobody wants to go to Harvard anymore, but wants to get taught by an AI tutor, because that's going to give them the best education they so next to not having to go to school anymore, they are so. And this is Chris Mann. He is also the founder of another AI tool. Actually, my kids are using his tool. He's founder of Synthesis, and he tweeted this, which I loved. Synthesis also it has its origins from Boca Chica. Chris Mann Frank was actually one of the teachers at this Boca Chica school at Starbase.
Yeah, the
And
SpaceX lab school. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just tweeted this, which is so true. My kids are doing this already, and I'm sure that our teachers of my kids are also doing this. So we are already in this phase.
I really
which
want to retweet this. Everything's computer.
everything is
Yeah,
computer.
but,
Yeah,
But also, it's also, I feel like I'm sort of the first kid of that generation. I'm 30. I'm turning 40 next month. But I basically learned all my skills mostly on YouTube by just watching tutorials, etc. How to build website, how to build marketing campaigns. And I had a call with Bart for my Next Level Human company. And we talked about it, how awesome like YouTube and Patreon and all those kind of websites are. Right now I'm practicing gypsy guitar. I'm already studying for, let's say, half a year. And I studying from the best teachers that just put out courses online where you have a sort of step-by-step program where you can follow that. And also many people are now competing with universities online. So Jordan Peterson, which is a very well-known professor out of Canada, also launched the Peterson Academy, where you can have like university lessons on all the important subjects for pennies on the dollar. So those institutions are already sort of obsolete. There are plenty of alternatives out there, but that will just accelerate and accelerate. And like the new generation will get, it's so inefficient to just sit on your, in a building all day and following sort of the standard curriculums where you can have sort of the best teachers in the world, and the AI would just start accelerating those things as well. So I think it's very, very exciting world for people that want to learn stuff. That is basically my observation. And the only thing that you need to learn as a human being in the 21st century is curiosity. So you need to be curious about a lot of things, and willpower. So the consistency to just follow through, and knowing that you cannot learn something in a week, but if you have curiosity and willpower combined and discipline, you can basically pick up 95% of the topics that are at hand, and maybe
also
5% you're just not talented enough.
Damien, you also need to be honest about yourself. You're one of the dumbest guys on the internet.
Yeah.
Together with us.
Together
You're
with
not
us.
alone.
And I think what I see with my kids right now on school, they're learning a lot. But I am so afraid that if they stay on this school and they're not going to be tutored by AI, they have to unlearn a lot. And not only unlearn all the things that they have learned, but also unlearn how they should learn. So, and I think that's the most interesting part of what you're actually saying, is that there are so many ways to actually learn stuff, as long as you're open-minded and curious. So maybe the only thing that we should learn kids is to be curious.
Most of the kids are curious by nature, but
Yeah.
we're unlearning the
Learning
curiosity of kids.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Instead of fueling it.
A prime example of this is like as a young kid, I loved to read books. And I was always very good at like you had these levels, right? You had level AV1 to AV12 or something, and I liked to read. But at the time, it became like obligatory to do like a book reading and stuff. I stopped reading. I couldn't care less. So I was naturally curious and I wanted to read,
Why is that
but
case?
yeah, I don't really like rules and authority.
Yeah, but who does, you know?
Yeah, there are a lot
So
of people who love it.
if I want you to do something, I shouldn't ask you to do it, or I shouldn't.
No, and probably I will find out like 5 minutes 5 minutes later. I will find out myself, or I'm doing it already. And and if you tell me something to do, so like it's not a good relationship we're having here, Florian.
Yeah.
Like you're my boss telling me
So-
something, and
I'm learning a lot here. Yeah, I'm learning a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and there comes that this is the angle that where Elon comes into play, because he describes his philosophy as the philosophy of curiosity, and Elon is probably the most curious human being that is out there. If you see him in conversations, for example, with other people like podcasters, etc., he's always curious about a human being sitting in front of him. So Zuby, it's a famous podcaster in the US. He was so surprised by this because he had thousands of questions for Elon, but then sort of Elon flipped it and said he had a lot of questions for Zuby as well, because he's just such a curious human being. But
Who
I
is
think if
Zuby?
you're a podcaster in the US,
Mm.
so if you're aware of that curiosity, curiosity is actually one of the best guides that you can have in life. So if you're curious about a certain subject, that's probably something uniquely for you as a human being, right? So sometimes you can be curious to something and think about, well, this is actually a very weird direction, because this is not a path I should follow in your stereotypical role that you outlined for yourself as, let's say, the job you have or the role in your family that you have. But just following that curiosity can also lead to very creative outcomes and very insightful things that you can help you to shape your future. And
Exactly.
I think so. For example, the way a Boring Company was being invented was just out of curiosity. It was Elon being frustrated by the traffic in LA and thinking about, would there be a other solution for this traffic, and that sort of curiosity then fueled this idea for the Boring Company. And I think that's just if you know, instead of unlearning that with kids, like shutting it down or making things mandatory when people don't want it anymore, is actually one of the mind shifts that we need to make in the 21st century. And then the next steps are willpower, or call it discipline. That if you know those ingredients of curiosity that you have, and you take a window of 5 years times to develop that kind of stuff, you can actually become a top class performer in that field. And it doesn't, for, let's say, 5% of the fields that won't apply. So if I want to become the best football player in the world, or sprinter, I will be maybe limited by my genetics. But many other areas, if you want to be the best video editor the next coming 5 years, and you're going to dedicate now 2 or 3 hours of your time editing videos, the odds of you after 5 years being in the 1% of video editors is just very, very, very high. And I think that's a very encouraging world that we then can create if we start realizing that pathway. Kenny, what is it you will want to learn if you have 5 years time? Just something random you've been thinking about, not Excel.
Well, I might go around the corner here and say what I'm actually doing. So I use AI quite a lot. So I've been building, as you all know, like my own company. We're now with 4 people, and we always have like a shortage of people, in finance. But 90% is just like doing the same stuff. So I'm really going deep in quite some things. And I've used a tool last 2 weeks to build a website. It's called lovable.ai. It's like insanely simple. Like you can build a website in like 10 minutes. It explains how you make a database, which is actually pretty technical and difficult for me. But I really like to learn like how to use AI in my work. And also be an AI first company. So that's the biggest thing I want to learn. Like how can AI enhance my life? The company I work for, my clients, etc., business partners, you name it. So I'm just curious to learn more about that, and it's going pretty quick. But I think it will evolve quite a bit more as well. There's this guy on the internet, and he shares like how he uses AI, and he just literally talks to his phone via WhatsApp, and it does like all kinds of stuff. So it can answer your emails, make proposals, can do job application for you, like those kind of things. I think it's
That's
just
how
amazing.
I use it as well. Like I usually just talk to Grok or talk to ChatGPT and start it off like a conversation and not directly asking it a question what it needs to do for me. But I first try to have him understand what I'm saying, or actually provide me with 20 questions that I first need to answer to the AI that will make the AI understand the situation better. And if you
Mhm.
use it like that, it becomes very interesting to see what AI comes up with. And the speed
Yeah,
is insane.
Okay, you
yeah, it's
still
crazy.
use ChatGPT?
Yeah, ChatGPT and Grok. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hey guys,
And
have you heard about this announcement by Elon that SpaceX will launch every week in 12 months? So we have
I've
more
missed
than
that.
50 Starship launches every 12 months.
But Starship is like the big one, the big Kahuna burger.
Or am I mistakenly, are they just going to launch a rocket every week?
Let
I
me
thought
put
it
it
was,
on the screen.
I
We
thought it
are
was
honing
Starship.
we are honing in on the V3 Starship design. SpaceX is tracking to Starship launch rate of once a week in 12 months from now. Hmm. Yeah. It
We
is.
are
It is indeed
we are
Star. Yeah.
we are in this year we are at a rate of one launch a month. So
That's
Yeah, and the thing is, they're also building a Starship manufacturing facility, and multiple launches per day will be the goal for that company. So it's going to only accelerate and become more normal. We have to look at starships as an airplane, and Kenny and I have one investor in our network that was looking into buying land surrounding the Starship facilities, because those will be our ports to Mars, basically. So
it's going to be the
just
next
like
station, next
yeah,
airport.
just like you have a harbor or airport, it's very valuable to build facilities around that. That is obviously also going to happen with SpaceX.
yeah, so he was also saying that he wanted to have 1 million people on Mars. So already 1 million on Mars in 20 years. So there will be, in 20 years, there will be like 10 time frames that there actually are starships going to Mars. So
It's a strange thought, right?
Yeah.
so there
Yeah,
will be
so that
there
will
will
be
be
very
like
interesting to
3
follow that ramp.
ships going together with thousands, 10,000s of people going to Mars in 10, 15 years. That's like, what are we going to see in the next 10 years on this front? And what kind of experiments that we've been talking about, these sandboxes, are we going to see?
Yeah. So I pulled up a graph of Starship, SpaceX launches. So over the last decade, where can I need to find this this graph, but basically it just grows with 50% almost every 2 years. So it's so the number of launches, and SpaceX is already transporting 90% of all the world's volume that is going into space. And that's also an interesting point to Tesla, because as we discussed many times in our previous podcast, is that Tesla is the only profitable EV company. So the other ones are all making a loss. But from my point of view, Tesla will also go to a, let's say, 80-90% market share in the EV space if they're just going to ramp up their production. Because also SpaceX has such so much advantage on the rest of the competition and countries that are competing with in bringing stuff to space. And I think we're also going to see that in the market share of Tesla in the coming years to develop. We're already 1.5 hours in, Jen, so we're going to wrap up.
I have one more news item.
One more news. Let's go.
Yeah, just weave it in.
Drum roll.
So we've been talking about these gold cards, from Trump.
Yes.
So I have a small clip from what's his name?
Colin Rogue.
Lutnick, I think.
Howard Lutnick.
Yeah, Howard Lutnick, and he's explaining how many gold cards they already sold in the first day. You have any idea how much? So let's do a bet before we put it on.
In the first day.
First day, how many gold cards did they sell? $5 million a piece.
500.
1,000, Kenny?
Yeah.
Spot on.
Sick.
I didn't know that. So.
It's 5 billion already.
Wow.
But did they actually sell it? So can I buy it?
Yeah. No idea. Are you in for one?
How do they know then that they sold 1,000 if you cannot buy it?
Why don't you put on the clip, Kees? He explains what Trump is also envisioning. Trump thinks he can sell 1 million of those.
Yeah, and there are like 2 million people that could afford this, right? Something I heard along the line.
I will be
40 million.
I will be curious on how it's going to be structured. I think it's going to be structured as a loan, because they want to refinance their debt, and if they can refinance this with just healthy conditions, that would make a lot of sense for people to also step into this thing, because just 5
I like the thinking.
Huh?
I like the thinking. I like the thinking, Damian. Yeah, could well be. Yeah, would be very smart actually if they would do that.
because if you just 5 million for a visa, that seems like a lot of money, to be honest. But if it's 5 million in a sort of very low interest thing, and you get a gold card, so you maybe get 1.5 or 2% or maybe 3% interest on that, it's going to be very attractive for many people to apply to this.
Yeah.
But Damien, how many euros or dollars would it cost to get a visa of Greenland before Greenland becomes a US? So if we are smart, we will become Greenland city owners, and from there we will become US citizen.
Ship the Mr. Green fleet to Greenland.
Greenland is part of Denmark, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not a great country to start in. Shall we start the clip?
Yes.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go.
Speaking of potentially great ideas, can you tell us about the Trump card?
Sure. So
Whose idea was that? And how did that come about?
John Paulson had a call with Donald Trump and was talking to Donald Trump and was kicking around the idea of we should sell, right? Why do we give away visas? We should sell them. And they're talking about it. Donald Trump calls me, gets me on the phone, right? We all talk about it, right? And then we go from there. And then my job is to figure out, like I always figure out, how to do it. What's the path?
Do you have
Let's
a
go
path?
figure it out. Of course. About 2 weeks from today, it goes out. Okay. Elon's building me the software right now.
Yeah.
Right. And then out it goes. And by the way, yesterday I sold 1,000.
Oh, you did? I got a poly market I created on how many of you guys going to sell this year. So
Cool.
Yeah, curious to see how many.
That's fantastic. Do you want to tell people
Yeah.
just the rough?
Yeah, what are
broad
the terms
strokes?
on
Okay.
it? Yeah.
So if you're a US citizen, you pay global tax.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not going to bring in outsiders going to come in to pay global tax. So if you have a green card, which used to be a green card,
Yeah.
now gold card, you're a permanent resident of America. You can be a citizen, but you don't have to be. And none of them are going to choose to be. What they're going to do is they're going to have the right to be in America. They pay $5 million and they have the right to be in America. They have the right to be in America.
Permanent,
as long as they're
permanent
good,
residency. Yeah.
as long as they're good people
And they're vetted.
and they're vetted
Yeah.
and they can't break the law. We can always take it
Right.
away if they're like evil or mean or bad or something. Not mean, but if they do
Right.
something horrible, you can take it away. Right. But the idea is if I was not American and I lived in any other country, I would buy 6, one for me, one for my wife and my 4 kids, because God forbid something happens. I want to be able to go to America and I want to have the right to go to the airport, to go to America and them to say, hello, Mr. Lutnick. Hello, Mr. Lutnick and the Lutnick family. Welcome home.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear, I can't come here when there's a horrible war, a horrible whatever.
Right.
I want to be able to go home. Right. And once I'm home, man, I might as well build a business.
Yeah.
So you have the most productive people in the world going to start spending time here. They're going to have a family office. They're going to hire some people.
And you're not going to tax their external worldwide income.
They only tax the money they make in America, which is what we do now.
Yeah.
But their global income stays out.
And they pay $5 million. And how many people do you think there are that could qualify in the world? How
There
many?
are 37 million people in the world who are capable of buying the card. In
That's
case you
people,
were wondering,
37 million. That's a lot more than ChatGPT told me.
who are capable of buying it.
Who are capable of buying it.
Now, I'm not saying they will, but they're capable of buying.
How many do you think you'll sell?
The president thinks we can sell 1 million.
So $5
That's
trillion. $5 trillion.
dollars.
I think $1 million is reasonable. I mean, look, as an outsider who came in and got his green card and then got his citizenship and now pay global tax every which way known to man. If this were available 15 years ago after the Facebook IPO, that's what I would have done. It would have been much better for me theoretically.
What's that?
Now I'm happy to pay the
So
taxes.
the
in America,
idea,
but-
so the idea is, and it's going to go fast. Meaning you
Yeah.
apply, right? We take your money, and the way computers work now, they have these cool things, like these computer things. They're amazing.
Mm.
You you put stuff in, and
Put
they
stuff
actually
in.
check everything. It's fantastic.
You don't need
even
an
have to plug them in anymore. It's amazing. Like they get the information through the air. I mean, you could do a better vet
Yeah.
than anybody in government has ever done it before in 1 second.
Right.
Better than they've ever done it before.
So I'll
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Amazing.
This is like
Well-
the most American thing I've watched in years. I think it's so opportunistic, but I absolutely love the idea. And yeah, I'm just curious if there's a website. Probably after Trump announced it, many people applied already to them, something like that. Because if they already sold thousands of them, then the first business signs of this idea are a tremendous success from my point of view. And apparently it's something they're already moving on. So Elon is building a website or application thing where you can
Software.
have that. Yeah.
But you want the right people, right? You don't want to have people who earned a lot of money with Bitcoin and are shady. I'm not saying
No,
people who have earned money with Bitcoin is shady, but I mean
Yeah,
just people who are more shady that come to
No,
the
but
US. You want to prevent that.
but they are
but
going to
people
be
will be
properly
vetted.
vetted.
Yeah, people
Sure.
will be
Yeah,
vetted.
yeah.
Have you found it
Great,
already?
gents.
What? What did I find?
Well, I'm asking Grok right now where I can apply for this gold card.
Yeah, I couldn't find it
You
either.
can apply through a U.S. embassy or through
It's
the
not possible
US
yet.
website.
Yeah,
All
it's
right,
not possible yet.
let's do that next week. So
Let's try to get one.
let's wrap up, and then we see each other in the studio next week again.
Can't wait.
Perfect. All right,
All right.
guys.
Thank you,
Cheers.
guys.
Amazing. Have a good time.
Bye-bye.
All right.